I love you, Alex. Mother and son should never be parted, and I hope to see you soon. Love from Mummy. Is that inappropriate? No. No? Well, they think it is. Can anyone explain why they think it is?
You missed something out. You should have put on it, and if his car doesn't reach you, it's because of these nasty social workers who are keeping it carrying your hand.
Yeah, but the trouble is they use that against me in court then, if I go back to court, and they'll say there's something wrong with me, and they say, look, she is passive aggressive.
Yeah, but the reason why they do that is to justify their own jobs. They know they've made a mistake and they're trying to...
Exactly. But I have to go now because I'm being called away, because there's other people that want to speak, and I could be here all day because I've got loads more to say. But while I'm here, I'm just going to say if my son ever sees this, because I know he's not allowed on the internet at the moment, in case he sees what's going on probably. I love you, Alex. I miss you, and I am going to fight, and I'm not giving up. I will never give up. Fighting for my son, because he should be with me and his family that love him, not strangers in care where he's being hurt.
Today, very simply, was to get people together who have suffered from child abuse or have had children taken away from them. Many of them are isolated or they're in small groups, and we wanted to start getting those groups together so that people can see they're not on their own and that actually there's a real movement of people starting to form who've had enough. And I think we all know from what's been spoken today that the issue of paedophilia and child abuse is on a massive scale. We know it runs right through the establishment to the highest levels.
Do you think Gordon Brown as well?
Well, I certainly believe that we have a Westminster which contains paedophiles, and I also believe from the evidence that I am seeing that we have a government that is not prepared to take action on paedophiles, as we've clearly seen with the Holly Gregg case. And if you refuse to take action when paedophiles are at work, you must surely condone them. So I think we need to ask Gordon Brown as Prime Minister personally what action he's going to take to bring the perpetrators of Holly's abuse to book. And we need to ask Mr Cameron as well, and we need to ask Mr Clegg. And only when those people have given a full and frank response as to what action they have or haven't taken are we going to know what sort of people we're dealing with. But at the moment, all Westminster MPs and all members of the Scottish Parliament have been informed and given details of the Holly Gregg case, and not one of them has taken any positive action. There's a massive cover-up, and we have to ask why.
My name is Ian Josephs. Yes, how I got in was when I was on Kent County Council, and a woman came and said her son had been removed because he had a high IQ and was playing truant from school because it was too easy, and he was getting bullied for being too clever. He was 11 years old, and I was just a member of Kent County Council, and she lived 2 or 3 doors away from me, so she was in my constituencies. But when I tried to find out about it, the Children's Department told me in these words: mind your own business. I was the councillor, that's what they told me. So I then asked in full council in front of everybody for the right to visit this child myself, since they wouldn't tell the mother where he was or let her visit him. I said, I will keep the location confidential, but I want to see that he's all right. They said no. I put down a motion, was defeated 105 votes to 1, that I'd be allowed to visit this child, but the press were all there, so they caved in and let me visit him. I found him in a special school run by Otto Shaw, who's now dead, who was the deputy leader of the Labour group. The fees were 3 times that of Eton or Harrow, and he was pocketing them. I asked what the school was like. He said, it's terrible, nobody learns anything, the only good thing is the money. I said, what do you mean the good thing is the money? He said, oh, we get very well paid every time we sleep with one of the masters. And that for him was the best thing about the school. Well, I went to court, I got it, and he went back to live with his mother, all right, and several other mothers asked me for help, and that's what I did for 6 years, as well as run my business, and that's how I got into it.
My wife was accused of harming our daughter when in fact she has ME, and she still has it, it's a serious condition. But this allegation was made by them falsifying the information and withholding the medical reports that were available, that they had, but they kept it from us. Now, it's very simple. All they have to do is open up the courts to reporting. You can't have this is injustice in secret. If you're going to make these allegations, for heaven's sake, let's have the matters reported properly. That's all. On the day, it finally the information was presented to the judge that that my daughter was seriously ill, and all the information was reflected in her medical records, which both the doctors and the social workers not only knew, they had been reminded about, but decided to keep it from the court and come along for a care order.
And what happened? Was she taken away?
No. We were awarded costs against Essex County Council on the 9th of December 2003. But you would think that was the end of the matter. But they then started keeping an eye on my daughter at school through people who it all was rather unofficial and against all the rules, to keep on spying on my daughter, hoping that she'd put a foot wrong somewhere and they would come back again. When the school found out that social workers were working in this way, they too were most annoyed about it. But because social workers are above the law and there is no scrutiny, this is happening in many, many cases.
And did they want to take your child into care?
That's
take
right,
her away?
yeah. And in fact, not only did they want to take her into care, they had organised fast tracking for adoption.
Well, there was two native men who claimed that in 1964, when the Queen and Prince Philip were at the Kamloops residential school in the interior British Columbia, that 10 children went off with them. That after they had a picnic with the children, these 10 children disappeared and were never seen again. That there's no other evidence about it. In this point, we're not making allegations or anything, but we just put that out there, and a few people here kind of took that the wrong way, and but I mean, it's not that we're accusing her personally, but the general point is that as head of the Church of England, the head of the state in Canada, she is legally and morally accountable for what the Anglican Church did and what the Canadian government did in these Indian residential schools, including the deaths of a lot of
Do you
children.
know this person then? That
Yes,
saw it?
he's a native man, William Coombs. He's in the downtown part of Vancouver. He comes on my radio show pretty regularly. He's a traditional medicine man. He has a lot of personal integrity, so I don't doubt that he believes that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why are you here today? And
Well, we're here to
what do
try
you
to make the
believe?
links between what's happened in other countries, the abuse of children institutionally, and how it's related to what's going on here, and trying to make links across the borders to build support for the victims and the other people who suffer from this, not just random but institutionalized abuse by the church and governments.
So where are we at with the Holly Greig case?
Well, we're attacking it in many, many ways at the moment. We're obviously trying to put political pressure on. Obviously, it's still a possibility I may be able to stand in Aberdeen South, which will bring the story invariably into the public domain. And of course, that was why I was arrested and banned from Aberdeen, to stop me doing that. But there are lots of people who are trying to help in a way in that area anyway. But we want to bring it as a national. It's a national case. It's not something that the other members of Parliament can actually say, oh, this is just a local minor difficulty in Aberdeen. It's a national story.
Do you think it's absolutely huge, this?
I think it's the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, I can only talk about the Holly Greig case. I can't speak conclusively about anything else, but I have been led to believe that there are connections with all sorts of other dreadful cases in which there's been all kinds of attempts to hush things up. The Dunblane one was practically one that springs to mind immediately, but obviously that's not my case, but I've been told that there are connections.
And what politicians do you think all this can link to?
Politicians, I don't know. The only politician who can be definitely linked, the politicians can be definitely linked to are the Lord Advocate of Scotland, Elisha Angelini, who we can conclusively prove through written documents has lied about her role in the case. And also we can show that the leading members of the Scottish National Party who are governing Scotland at the moment, Alex Salmond, the First Minister, and Kenny McCaskill, the Justice Minister, are heavily involved in this case. They've been told a long time ago, and we've presented the documents to show that the Lord Advocate in their government, member of their government, had been lying over this particular case. And I suggested back in the summer the only possibility was actually to dismiss the Lord Advocate and call for a public independent inquiry into the case.
And what we cannot do is not discuss something because it's not very nice. If we are to protect our children, we are going to have to look at some very dark subjects. and then we're going to have to do something about it.
I love you, Alex. I miss you, and I am going to fight, and I will never